Hello! Storytime today. If you couldn't tell by the title, today we're talking about the 1986 film produced by the Jim Henson Company, starring David Bowie and Jennifer Connelly, the amazing Labyrinth. I would highly recommend that you watch that film, if you have not yet, before you watch this video. I know it's asking a lot, but I promise you it is worth it. If you've decided not to watch the film before you watch this video, I am about to spoil the entire film for you in 3, 2, 1. Here's a quick summary of the plot. Young teenage girl Sarah finds her baby brother Toby kidnapped by the Goblin King Jareth, and she must navigate her way through a labyrinth filled with fantastic creatures, all portrayed by puppets, the likes of, the Muppets, to save her baby brother and maybe even grow a little along the way. Here's my thing. For years I've been kicking around the idea of a remake of Labyrinth. If you know me, you know I'm not a huge fan of remakes. Sequels, yes. Even prequels, maybe. But remakes I'm not a huge fan of. There are a very select few remakes that I really endorse, like Doctor Who or Sherlock. I advocate for a Labyrinth remake for a few reasons. Now, one of the reasons I advocate for it is because I think that the basic story of Labyrinth told in a different way would be amazing. I'm calling this an inspirational remake, as in, adapt the story and change it a little bit to fit the times, to fit the audience. So, maybe instead of it being a fantasy type film, set this whole film in reality, maybe in a high school. Maybe make the Wild Gang specifically an actual gang, or at least a clique of students. And part of the reason I like the idea of this kind of a remake is because Cassie and I really love a lot of stuff, and we're passionate about a lot of stuff, and part of the reason we enjoy making videos on YouTube is because we get to experiment and play around and parody and create our own versions of our favorite things. And so with this inspirational remake, since we obviously don't have, more than $10 in the YouTube budget, this would be something we may be able to do. In terms of a faithful or literal remake, I considered in my head as I was on my way to work, if I could cast anyone I wanted to in my big budget production remaking Labyrinth, who would I cast as the key character? No, I'm not talking about Sarah, the main character, because you don't watch the film for Sarah. David Bowie makes that film. So in my thinking about who would play him, because honestly I think a big draw for the film is that character. You gotta have a great personality to make that character, to make that movie. So I came up with some basic characteristics. Maybe you might have someone in mind as I go through these characteristics. Maybe not. We'll see. One of them is that you have to be a great singer, obviously. Another, classic rock. Classic rock. I mean, that is the epitome of David Bowie. If they have a British accent, or if they're actually just British. And the last point I have about the characteristics, a little controversial maybe, but gender and sexuality nonconformist. David Bowie himself didn't really conform to general accepted standards of gender or sexuality. It's part of what made him him. I would think that the perfect person to play that character would be someone who kind of goes along the same lines as him. Here's my choice for if Hollywood ever did a remake of Labyrinth. Brendan Urie. Go with me here. I have notes. Why Brendan is perfect as Jareth. Number 1, amazing singer. Don't believe me? Check out our video where we went to one of their concerts. He's a huge fan, obviously, of classic rock. He plays Bohemian Rhapsody at every concert. He even recorded a remake of it for the film Suicide Squad. You don't get more classic rock than Bohemian Rhapsody. I know what you're thinking, Brendan's not British, but this past year, he performed on Broadway in a little show called Kinky Boots. He had a coach work with him on his accent. He sounded pretty convincing to me in the few videos I watched of him speaking and singing with this accent. And then last, but certainly not least, it should come as no surprise that Brendan Urie is a gender and sexuality nonconformist. Sounds an awful lot like David Bowie. Does it not? Say what you will, I think they sound almost exactly alike. And if you're not completely convinced, let me take it one step further. In the video for Hey Look Ma, I Made It, Brendan Urie debuts something you never would have expected from him. A puppet. He is an alter ego puppet named Bebo. A puppet! Like in the style of Jim Henson. Cass and I would love to hear from you. We would love for you to leave some comments down below, and to kind of guide those comments, I have some questions for you. First question, what do you think of remakes? Love them? Hate them? Do you prefer one or the other? 2, what do you think of our budget YouTube adaptation idea? Do you have any tips? Would you support something like that? Would you potentially be interested in starring in something like that? And number 3, do you agree that Brendan would be absolutely perfect as Jareth? Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and we will see you in the next video. Here's a quick summary of the plot. Young teenage girl Sarah finds her baby brother Tony. Let's try again. He's not named Tony. I'm an idiot.